Today in this podcast, I'm going to talk about betrayal in terms of the family, your family. It can also be your partner's family too, but we're just talking about the family as the family. Betrayal means break of trust, a breach of trust. So you trusted them with some information. You might have trusted them to tell them something, and now they've betrayed you and broken that trust. Quite often it's a secret, something you tell someone in confidence within the family, and then they spill the beans to everyone else. That can be a betrayal for you, because perhaps you told your mother something and told her not to say anything to anyone, and she just went and told everybody, and now you don't trust your mum, and it's broken the trust. It can also be within families to do with money. Maybe you got betrayed and some money went to other people and you found out about it and it didn't come to you, or you were supposed to do things together as a family and you got left out. There can be many kinds of betrayals within families, and they have some long-lasting effects in families. You've got to understand that when we're being betrayed by the ones we love and the ones who we've grown up with that we're supposed to trust, then there's going to be huge effects. Another one is when there's been abuse in the family. If there's been abuse in the family and then one person, and that could be you, stands up against it and starts to talk about it or speak your truth about what happened when you were a child in that family, other people who would have supported you previously will jump ship and they will actually betray you. So while all your information, perhaps you're starting to deal with the childhood abuse and you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you talk to your sister, brother, perhaps, about it, and they concur and go, yes, it did happen, and he or she did do that. And then when it all comes out, they jump ship and they say, no, it didn't happen, and you're mad and you're crazy. There will be often lots of problems with abuse, and that can completely split the family, because now you have the one lot of the family who's siding with the abuser, and the one who's been abused is being shut out. I had that happen to me. My sister agreed with me for 6 months when my abuse came to the front and I started to remember everything, and then as soon as it came out, she went with my father. And it completely destroyed our relationship long term, even though I tried with it, because they both stood in a different place and they both had betrayed me and they had both lied, and they were both lying and not telling the truth. They wouldn't tell the truth about what really happened. This creates huge problems in families, and people will now not talk to each other for years and sometimes decades, and sometimes never again. Do not criticize yourself if you're the one who's being betrayed, because you didn't do it. You trusted them and they broke your trust. But how you deal with it long term is going to affect everything. For example, with your family, if you separate from them for any time, it will affect you and your partner if you're in a partnership, and your children if they are grandparents or if they are uncles and aunties. And you have to look at this long term and see whether you really want to go down this path. It's interesting because often people who betray you, particularly in families, and who lie and don't tell the truth or do something around money where you're disadvantaged, they're often the one who actually steps away. They'll make out like it's you, but they make it so impossible to go back and stand in a place of truth that you can't actually make it work anymore, because you either have to sit there with the big lie for the rest of your life, or that's how it's going to be. You're just going to have to split from them. They'll often make out like you're the bad one, even though they betrayed you, so be ready for that. You will be like the black sheep in the family, and they'll tell stories about you that aren't true, and you can actually meet people who say, oh, why did you do this to your mum and dad or your sister? And you're like, what? That's not how it went down. But in the end, you know what the truth is. And this is what it's all about. It's not really about the betrayal. The betrayal is actually just indicative of the fact that one party in the family aren't telling the truth and the other party are telling the truth. You can make amends and put a line in the sand and move on. This can happen. You can also accept that your father, mother, and siblings are liars, and you might want to still retain the relationship, but you're now wary and careful about what you do. For example, you won't tell them anything you don't want the next door neighbour to know. and you will not do anything with money with them, no business. Never ever get involved with money with them because they will screw you over. So you don't do that one either. So there are ways to stay with them and keep yourself safe. Being betrayed by your family feels very, very terrible and very, very bad. And you will often be punished, even though you didn't do it. If you stand up to them, you will get punished. Often they will tell you that you're mental and you need to get psychiatric help. I was told that. And try and tell other people that you know within the family their side of it, the story, and how bad you were. And you need to just learn to live with that, because the truth always comes out, and eventually people know who you are, and they will, if they meet you again, they'll just be with you and think, it doesn't seem right, what they said about this person, this doesn't seem right at all. Betrayal within the family also has effects on your children, if you have children, and you have to work out whether you're prepared to step out and that they don't see their grandparents and or uncles and aunties. This is quite a big one, and cousins too. So this is something you need to decide and work out on. I think some families it's fixable, but I think with other families it just can't work. It doesn't matter what you do, you can't make it work. And to be quite honest, people who are liars and people who betray you are usually quite toxic for you and quite negative for you. So you really need to make a choice whether you want to have that person in your life. Toxic people are very draining as well, and you can never really trust them, and they will actually sort of poison the relationship in a way. You still have the power, even though you will feel powerless. And I want you to remember that. It's just like the love relationship. You still ultimately have the power of choosing. Because if you're the one who's been betrayed, they've lied to you. And they have not done the right thing by you, and they will know that. Doesn't matter how much they shame, blame, or guilt you, they know that. And we all know that. And everyone knows that. So even on their last deathbed, they know what they did. They might never admit it to you, but they know what they did. And you know what they did. You can forgive them and move on, but you need to move on with boundaries then, with these types of families. And you need to make your own boundaries that work for you, not their boundaries. It's sad, really, because you're supposed to be able to trust your family members and trust people. But people are still just people, whether they're the mum or the dad or brothers or sisters, they're just people in the end. You just have a different relationship with them than you do it for another relationship that you might have, like a friendship. Some families manage to do this in denial. You might have a family who likes to live in denial, and if you want to keep the semblance of a family, so you can still do birthdays and Christmases and whatever you need to do, you can turn up and you can do the act and play the game and then go home. But ultimately, you also have to face the truth. And the truth for you now is that you can't trust them. You might have family members who know they've made a mistake and then tell you they won't do that again or apologise. Then you do have some semblance of being able to get it back together. But ultimately, you have to decide what you're going to tell them and what you're going to invest in this relationship now, and whether it's really worth it for you. You can't be the old you. You can't be completely vulnerable with them and just trust them because you want to trust them. They've lost that now, so don't do it. I found that a lot of these families, there were degrees of it too. There was degrees of betrayal. There's some betrayals that are easier to get over and you can work your way through them. There are other betrayals which I think are very, very big and have long-lasting effects on you, both emotionally and maybe even psychologically and also financially. If you've had, for example, your brother went and sold the family house and took all the money, that's going to be a hard one to get over, which is quite different to your mother told the news of some confidence you gave and she told everyone in the family. They're quite different. So you need to be kind of realistic with this. People mess up, people do the wrong thing, people lie, and People, I always call it conversation fodder. When they've got nothing else to talk about, they talk about other people and they give their secrets away. It's a bit like gossiping, I suppose. Your family might be very important to you as well, so you might want to find a place where you can fix it and make it work. And the thing is, too, I think you'll probably find you'll distance yourself, even if you don't distance yourself in terms of you still keep turning up to all the shows. You might emotionally distance yourself from them and become very selective now. And that's the thing I want you to do, is to work out what you want to share and what you don't want to share. They are not people to be trusted, perhaps now, when you found that out the hard way. And it's an awful thing to find out. But you can forgive them, but do not put yourself in that position ever again where you tell them things or invest money or be part of some scheme they want you to be in where you will actually be betrayed. If you're a truthful person, you'll find it really, really hard. But to be honest, in families, if you look around, you can work out the ones that you can trust and the ones that you'll never trust. And people that you can't trust have a self-interest. They always look after themselves first and everything else comes second. And that's even in families. So a mother or father will put themselves first, not the needs of their kids, and brothers and sisters will do likewise. It's not all bad. You can still be in it, but I'm telling you to be careful, because once a person has betrayed you, the likelihood of them trying to do that again is quite big, and you need to be really aware of that. And don't set yourself up again. Do not go and put your heart on your sleeve with them or lend them money. If you want to give them money, you give them money, but do not lend them money, and do not be manipulated into signing contracts or joint things. Do not do that again. Just keep out of anything financial or business with them. Now, this being said, if you're a family business, this one's a very tricky one, but you can always leave the family business if you want to as well, or make a separation there, or have some system where everything's very transparent. You can fix this one up, or you can actually choose to have space from your family or certain family members. Just because they're your family doesn't mean you have to stay with them. You might love them, but if you don't trust them, it's never going to really work. And if they're toxic family members, then it's better not to be with them in some ways. Life will go on and your life might be happier without them. But this is a decision that you make. Remember, you have the power. You have all the power here to make the decision. Even though they betrayed you, you actually have the power to decide. So take your time. You don't have to do anything. You can change your mind, as I've said before, and see if you can retain the family. But then if you can't, it's okay too. And don't feel bad about that, because they broke it, not you. So I'm sending you lots of love and lots of healing. And I hope you can figure out what you're going to do, which is best for you.